Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. Today we're going to check out Tesseract's newest single, War of Being. I know I've seen a lot of people request this one, and it came out right as I was going into my summer break, so what better way to get back into the swing of things than to check out this new track from Tesseract. Let's dive into it, see what's going on with War of Being. Oh, an extra 6 beats there. It's exceptionally heavy right out the gate here. Okay. Really digging that over the atmospheric guitar work. Bringing back our A section. There's that classic Tesseract right there. Going real heavy in the chunky groove. The synth is a really nice addition to this. It's something that pushes forward. This idea of contrast is strong, going from atmospheric to rhythmic groove to atmospheric to rhythmic groove. Man, those are some funky syncopations. The layered harsh over the clean. Ooh, whoa, whoa, whoa. We had syncopation switch up there. Nice drum fill there to signify the end of the moment, since everything else was sort of just awkwardly juxtaposed to this ambience. Yeah. We had a swell into this section, acted as another semi transition. Yeah, merging the two. Ambient syncopation. All of the nuance here, the different velocities on the drum hits, the minor alterations both physically and digitally on the vocals. The perceived double time that we haven't felt anywhere in this track. The breath control there, so good. And again, more of the electronic side. Kind of moving a bit in a spoken word. Interesting. This is a massive variation on our first section, but there's still some remnants of that foundation here. I almost wonder if it's been inverted. If anyone has the stems or sheet music or anything, I need to know if that section was an inversion of our opening verse. The song has conditioned me that these more ambient moments are short-lived and will lead into a heavier djent section again. And so my brain's telling me, wait for it, we're going to get back into it. But according to the time here, I think we're about ready to wrap this track up. This is probably the outro. Oh, okay. Interesting. I chuckled because of the combination they just pulled off. It's interesting that things also haven't changed here. The ambient section that we had before going into that last moment is very similar to this. In a sense, it sort of became cyclical there in our last few sections. I'm curious if that's supposed to represent anything, because honestly, the song could have ended before that final heavy bit, and I don't think it would have changed anything. Emotionally resonant. Of course, the song, the structure, the feeling, the story that goes through it all, all that does get changed if we remove an entire section, but yeah, I don't think the emotional resonance of the ending was altered at all by having that final explosive moment. Um, but I did enjoy the I don't know if I should call it strange, just an odd combination there. We sort of had like a larger than life reverby alt rock kind of thing going on, and then the djenty syncopated heavy guitar work started like seeping in on the bottom of it, and then it overtook it, and then they were clashing, pretty much going off at the same time. And at first I felt it was a bit rough, a bit odd, but and that's what made me chuckle, because they're two sounds that I just they're kind of at ends with each other. But it ended up working for me. I kind of enjoyed it. And I think it goes along with some of the ideas that we've seen throughout this track as far as contrast and duality, bringing the two sides together, which might be what the song is about in the lyrical aspect, which we'll touch on at the end of this video. But it is called War of Being, and a war is usually a battle between two parties, two sides. There could also be a multifaceted war, but for the sake of usually poetry, art, music, especially, we tend to simplify it down to a two-sided battle. Um, there's a lot of songs about being at odds with oneself, an interior and an exterior component to a character, or a lighter, dark side of somebody, those kind of concepts. So I think the concept of duality, opposition, contrast, and then bringing two very different types of music together at the end to sort of tie everything together and hopefully create a single person at the end of this war for the being, for the self. I think that's ultimately what's going on. At least that's what the music tells me, lined up with the title of the track. So, looking at some of those themes, though, opposition, right? There are two exceptionally distinct sides of this track. There is the more atmospheric aspect, which has usually more softer vocals that are focused on lengthier held out notes, and usually clean spoken. The guitar work, if there is any, is longer held out notes, really going for an atmospheric vibe. Drumming is sparser, but usually heavy on reverb or echo. And there is usually a digital component to it, some sort of synth that exists around everything, sort of creating the atmosphere. And there are electronic aspects that are added to any and all of these aspects as well, such as the hand claps at like the 7 or 8 minute mark, where you get one clap, really large sound, much louder than a clap usually is, and then it echoes off to the right and left sides. At quite a distinct separation of interval as well. It's not like it's a typical echo, which is pretty quick. It claps, and then like 2 beats later, you get one over here, and 2 beats later, you get one over here. It's a lot of space between them. And so we have this side, which is sparser, lighter, more ambient, and then the syncopated djent side, which tends to have a focus on groove rather than atmosphere, is heavily syncopated, um, and that syncopation drives forward groove and momentum because there's a lot more notes, a lot more attacks being played than in the ambient side, and so the song almost feels like it has stretch and squash, stretch and release. I don't know why that feels so weird to me. That's the wrong phrase. Whatever, though. This idea of pushing forward and then leaning back, and then pushing forward and leaning back, almost as if enacting a plan or engaging with something, and then taking a step back for introspection or to figure out what to do next, a moment to think, and this divide between action and introspection, I think really fuels the movement of the track as a whole. It's the whole identity of the song is this concept of engaging with something else and engaging with oneself in ways that have forward momentum and standing still, though that's not necessarily to say that the forward momentum actually makes progress. We're just moving. Again, we'll touch on all this when we hit the lyrics and we get a more concrete idea of what the song's supposed to be about. These are just the themes I'm picking up in the music. I do want to focus on a couple of smaller ideas real quick before we lean into the lyrics here. I like this. um, to an extent. You know, I've said in the past, djent is a fantastic spice. It is not a great basis for a meal, right? I don't want an entire song focused on just the, rhythmic syncopation. It is something that works very well as a component to a larger idea, and Tesseract, at least in this track, is sitting fairly well within the realm of just making djent. The atmospheric parts are a nice reprieve from the rhythmic syncopation, but so many sections in here are just, here's our 4-bar phrase, it's heavily syncopated, we have a crash cymbal or a splash cymbal maybe, giving us our downbeats, and we get the groove based on what the guitars and bass kick and snare are doing against that cymbal. And then we'll play that 4-bar phrase over and over and over and over. And this foundational concept, right? The notes might change, the riffs might change, but this foundation of how to build the section is fairly consistent through every single one of these djent sections. So by the time we reached the fourth or fifth one, I was long past, being done with this concept. I need something else around it. And so I think if you really like Tesseract sound, you're going to love this track. You're probably going to love the album. I think for me, it's going to be a love-hate relationship where I tend to enjoy it in spurts. This might be an album I need to listen to a couple of tracks at a time, not all at once. And I will be listening to the whole album. It is on my list, available September 15th. So it's just a few weeks away. But I think I am going to have to check it out in groups, because if they just play this type of music through the whole album, I know I'm going to get fatigued on it fast. I got fatigued on it on just one track. Although the synthesizers are a nice addition to it. Having that synthy sound on the outside to create this atmosphere, and occasionally a slower moving melody around the faster moving syncopated stuff. It is a really nice addition, and of course the vocals have a way of kind of pulling me out of the monotony of the guitar and drum work as well. And actually, I guess that's the part I want to talk about next, talking about highlights. And that kind of wasn't a highlight. I don't know how I got on that topic. Nuance, right? We saw a lot of nuance in some of the quieter sections where, I pointed out the drum velocity in that one section where there are so many different variances of volume coming out of our drum kit, so many different sounds using the entire kit with not just, making sure that every instrument on the drum kit gets utilized, but having as many sounds out of each instrument in the drum kit present as possible. The snare, there's like 5, 6 ways to get a sound out of a snare. We got a few of them. And really making sure that it's such a melodically nuanced drum pattern. We don't get to see that often, but it was right there specifically. I pointed out in the reaction. I really love that bit. Then the vocalist too. We get a ton of nuance out of this. We have high harshes. We have low harshes. I don't think we had a growl in there, but maybe we did. We had quiet cleans. We had belts. We had very back of the throat, round, full clean vocals. We had clean vocals with a bit of bite to them. Not really going into a harsh, but getting that natural compression on it. There was one part where we added digital compression, a heavy amount, to almost give it a digitized voice at a moment. The vocalist does a lot, for me specifically, to keep the song interesting from moment to moment. And it's because of, if the band is a very rigid foundation, they do what they do repetitively to create the base work for the vocals to soar on top of. This is a perfect showcase of the roles that they have within their band and how to go about crafting a song. And again, I don't want to throw any shade at the instrumentation on any of this or the composition in the instrumentation either. Everything in the song is there for a reason, and it has a role to fulfill, whether it is flashy or not. But to me, the standout is the vocals. And the rest of the band does a fantastic job of being that rock, that support for the vocals to excel on top of. If it wasn't for the band, the vocals would not be as interesting to listen to. It really is something that works together in a way. So, no shade thrown towards the band. They're just not the type of music I tend to listen to. Was there something else I wanted to talk about? I don't think so. I'm going to take a second to pause here, and then we're going to hit some lyrics. All right. Interestingly, Daniel Tompkins, who is the lead singer, has stated that War of Being is a fight for acceptance, a battle of existence, and a resistance against ego. It's a struggle for control as we cut through the white noise of reality. It's the need to know and identify with oneself, to accept and understand what we stand for and who we are. There's an urgent need to tear the mask away and reveal your true self. I feel like that says everything and also nothing. It's a very vague statement that encompasses a lot of ideas that I can vaguely attribute to the lyrics, but I'm not going to say stand out concretely, though once again it could be that the lyrics are speaking in just as vague of a manner. There is a lot of metaphor going on in here, so I might have missed something as well. It is interesting, though. I want to highlight the opening and closing stanzas. It says, "In the beginning I was told that the life in you ran cold. My tears turned to dread with words of life and death." For a song that is about exploring oneself, fighting for one's own, what do you say? Fighting for one's own acceptance, fighting against your own ego, and having the need to know and identify with oneself. All ideas about I, me, myself, I, coming to terms with what all of this means. The opening stanza is about a you. Now, this could certainly be a duality within oneself. Until we reach the end. Okay, I said the last stanza. The last stanza repeats some ideas from the fourth to last stanza, which is what I want to focus on. So, okay, I was a little wrong, but it still sort of bookends the experience here. It says, "The words I whispered followed you. They lit a light in you that you might not have found, to dream of flowing locks untwisted and auburn eyes glistening as you weep. Raise your eyes and notice me." To me, those speak about creation and connection in a way that feels parental. I don't really get that feeling throughout the rest of the lyrics. Most everything else in here is about trying to figure out who I am and trying to figure out who that is that I display to the world, who it is on the inside, and is there some way I can make those two meet? As Daniel said in the description, it is a song about finding a way to tear off the mask and show the world your true self. And I think there is a balance there. I don't think we can always truly be ourselves in a society. There's always going to be some sort of mask to be worn, even if it only covers 1% of who we are. There is not an ideal situation in a modern society to completely showcase oneself, and so there will always be a compromise between who you present yourself as and who you are on the inside. And this song really is about trying to find that compromise, that medium point. But I find it interesting that all of this talk about discovering who oneself is bookended with lyrics about someone else. And it's almost as if the song is supposed to, it almost seems to be, at least from my perspective, a song about finding oneself in order to showcase others how to do this. That turns it from a self-focused concept to one that helps a community or at least an other. It's not just I want to find myself so that I can be better than others, right? It's I want to find myself so I can teach others how to find themselves, and I enjoy that element there. That's not to say that any song that doesn't specifically state an other in a type of track like this, whether it is about finding oneself or trying to find, spiritual nirvana or anything like that, just any way of any sort of enlightenment. It's not to say that those songs are necessarily narcissistic in their intent, but I like how this song specifically goes out of its way to put this idea and surround this core concept of self exploration with this concept of passing these words on to others. It adds a nice little twist to it that I think works well. Um, and so yeah, I mean, there's an obvious connection here between the music and the lyrics, the duality, the two sides, trying to find a way to reach them in the middle, not only just to bring them together, but to even discover what they are. And I think it's interesting too, if you listen to the music in the track, you'll find that each of the djent sections ends up becoming more and more technical than the one before it. The atmospheric sections tend to explore more atmosphere, usually with more layers or more intricate effects being added onto stuff. There's an exploration of each idea when you look at them linearly, not doing the back and forth, that you'll find there is this deeper exploration of both sides happening in parallel before they come together and meet at the end when we get that very full ending of the alt rock atmospheric larger than life stuff and the djenty low bass focused syncopated metal stuff. It really is an exploration of both sides and finding a meeting place for them in the middle. Yeah, I mean, this song is just, it's fascinating. It's very well done. Aside from the repetitiveness of the syncopated rhythm, I mean, this is right up my alley, and like I said, I'll be checking out Tesseract's new album next month, just to see what's up with it because I'm sold on this. There's a little bit of a hurdle for me to overcome with the repetitive element, but I think I can get past it if they continue to put out music like this that just works so well with such strong thematic cohesion. Um, and so those are my thoughts on what is this track? War of Being from Tesseract. Let me know yours. Put your comments, thoughts, perspectives, opinions down in the comment section. Let me know if you had anything to say about this track, if it hit you in a completely different way, whatever. If you disagree with me, go ahead and let me know. Above that, in the description box, you'll find a link to Linktree. It takes you to this menu. You can find links to the Patreon, special selections, Discord, I don't know, a bunch of other stuff. There's my music is in there. Go check it out. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. We have one more video today. Otherwise, I'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC, as usual. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.